Welcome to Fireside Chats, Leadership Journeys, brought to you by the Office of Academic Clinical Affairs and hosted by Dr. Carolyn Porta. These chats bring together University of Minnesota Health Sciences students with experts for candid conversation on leadership, career pathways, sources of joy, and strategies to rejuvenate.
Thank you all for being here this evening. This is our Office of Academic Clinical Affairs intern fireside chat. We invite guests to give us some of their lived experience, some personal sharings and stories to inspire these interns. This is an interprofessional group of graduate students here at the University of Minnesota, a range of degree programs, including nursing, public health, vet med, dentistry, a few others. So to kick us off tonight, first, just a significant welcome to Commissioner Malcolm and to Vice President Tolar. I am delighted to have you here and grateful you would take time with us. Every intern has expressed gratitude for the time that they get with you as guests, and I know tonight will be no exception. To get us started, just briefly an introduction and share with us what you are doing to take care of yourself these days. Let's start with you, Commissioner Malcolm.
Well, good evening, everybody. Hi, Dr. Tolar. Thank you, Carolyn, for the invitation. First, want to say thanks to all of you for choosing careers of service in the future, and we are going to need your fresh brains and fresh energy and insights. This has been just an unbelievable last year plus. I'm happy to talk about that a little bit. Just so by way of introduction, Jan Malcolm. I have the unusual honor of having served as Commissioner of Health for 3 different governors, but separated. My first time was with Governor Ventura, who was elected in the fall of 1998, and then Governor Mark Dayton asked me to come back to the role for the last year of his term, and then Governor Walz asked me to stay on. So even though I've worked for 3 different governors, it was separated by a span of 20 years. So it's not like I, really knew what I was doing when I came back into the role. But I've spent my whole career in health policy, and toward the end of my career, I wish I'd discovered it earlier, public health. I was actually on my way to going to medical school when I got intrigued with health policy, and my career took a different turn at that point. But I'm a policy wonk geek and love public health. That's enough about me.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
What I'm doing to take care of myself, was that the question?
Yes.
It's a very embarrassing answer. Not much, but in all truth, I reconnected with a therapist, mental health therapist that I had worked with many years ago, and that's been really a lifesaver to try to better balance the stress and difficulties that this year has brought. So I'm a walking advertisement for the importance of therapy.
Thank you, and thank you. We appreciate that. Vice President Tolar, a little bit about yourself and how you're taking care of yourself these days.
Well, I don't think that, my personal history is very important and very interesting, but I admire Commissioner Malcolm. I have been obviously working with you, Jen, for the last year more intensely than with the previous governors. And I just genuinely see a role model in you that combines on the word that you just said, which is service. So what keeps me going is service. It's essentially the daily humility humility and confidence. The humility comes from the fact I'm a bone marrow transplant physician, so 50% of my patients will die no matter what I do, and I don't know who will. And I chose this for a reason, because I do really think that this is a life-enhancing way of living life, and that's why what Commissioner Malcolm said, and what you all are about, life of service. There is nothing better than that. But this is a long-term goal, and I'd be happy to talk more about that. But I can tell you that I learned from my patients much more than I've ever learned from my colleagues or anybody else. And I and on a simple way, day-to-day routine, I try to. The answer is simple. My family, my wife of 33 years, we just celebrated last Friday, 33 years of marriage. We have 3 children. She's a rock of my life. She co-created who I am. I would be a very, very different person without her. I think it's a gift that I get every day. I have 3 children. All of them are phenomenal in different way. The boys are a little messy, but brilliant anyway. The girls are perfect. I have a 2-year-old grandchild, and she is truly a joy of my life. And that is my way of dealing with almost any kind of stress on a purely disciplined kind of way. And I'm not saying that people should do this. I'm just saying, in a full honesty, how I do this. I get up very early, around 4. I have about 3 hours where I can think. This is really important, for everything I do, because once, as I said at the beginning, 7 o'clock hits, the day is not mine anymore. It's not mine. This is a job. And I need to serve well. I actually need that space to think. I exercise every day as hard as I can. I don't eat the whole day. I eat 1 meal a day at night, dinner with my family. And I am one of the people who don't watch television at all. I don't have a social media account, not a single one, I think. I read books, that is, and I try to focus the energy in the right direction, which includes that I truly, if I don't, if I'm, I need to be available, in reasonable ways. But I actually don't multitask. I've seen one person to multitask, and everybody else is doing several things poorly, including myself. So when I do something, I focus on it, get it done, not completely sometimes, but get it done, that unit of work, and then I do something else.
Thank you. I appreciate these reflections, and I know the interns do as well. I'm not sure how many will quickly change their schedules as Tamir, but you've certainly laid out a nice gauntlet for them to think about. As we look at the pandemic and what you've lived through as leaders, the interns are always curious to know what you've learned about yourself as a leader during the pandemic that might have been different from all the other times that you lead. And I'll open it up to both of you to see if there are any reflections there.
Jen?
Well, and thanks, Dr. Tolar, for your kind words before. Certainly I have learned that I have more stubbornness and more perseverance in me than I maybe thought. It's been a pretty brutal year, and friends have said, how come you're even still on your feet? And I say some days I'm not, but there's just a kind of a compelling need to just dig down and try to give whatever it is I can. I've kind of felt like my role is mainly a communication role. I'm not an epidemiologist myself. I'm not an infectious disease specialist. I wish I was. I've felt sort of inadequate some days on the technical side. So I sort of feel like I'm kind of the representative of that work, but I am not myself, equipped to do the technical aspects of the work. So I've kind of felt badly about that. But I've come to appreciate that there is a value in being able to be a good communicator, and that is kind of the role that I need to really be focused on setting a tone, both for my agency of kind of determination and optimism and belief that we will get through this, and for the public to be, factual, calm. And there are days when I feel not calm, but I try to still, pay attention to the fact that this is a specific role and a specific need that I need to fulfill. So, I guess I would just say I've learned to appreciate some of the skills that I have that I maybe undervalued. But I've also learned that, I've learned I'm not as good a leader in virtual settings as I am in person. I have found it difficult to problem solve, and especially around, personality or issues over the Zoom or the Teams meeting. So I definitely think the strengths and weaknesses of my leadership style are much more apparent to me after this.
Thank you. VP Tolar.
I cannot, equal the sophistication and depth of the commissioner, but I'll try. So my approach to the pandemic was always we trained for this. This is one of these pandemics, catastrophes, disasters, that happen. And when you train as a surgeon, as I did, and intensive care physician, you are trained to do something. Your response is not anxiety, paralysis, or shouldn't be, because you can be personally hurt, and many of us have been, including myself. But you don't allow this to stop you from serving others. So what was a learning for me was that we were able to energize an enormous amount of knowledge, goodwill, and energy around the COVID-19 hospital, the testing we did with the commissioner and with the governor, the trials that we put. This was enormous. This is not self-congratulatory at all. This is a reflection of the teams that I serve. That was quite incredible. That was very positive, and I'm not discounting the tragedies that we have seen. People dying on iPhones. This has been incredible turning point for mankind, and I would argue for this generation in all the layers of time. I don't want to, though, be just so there are a lot of things that I can talk about. How science was amplified through this, how relationships deepened through this, how the communities got better. But I don't want to shy away from two things that were a revelation for me. One was that, and I apologize if this is not what you expect, but I assumed that everybody is moved by the plight of the communities of color and underserved. I have always been going to the homeless shelters since I was training 20 years ago here, homeless shelters and everything else. And I sort of assumed that this is it, especially in the COVID-19. And I was shocked that it actually is not. And I know that it's not very much on the surface because people are not talking about this, but it's more the actions that I have seen. And they come in two flavors. One is that people close themselves out, people, organizations. And the second is that there is which is equally difficult for me to swallow, is sort of a disingenuous, window dressing, on the front, so that, we don't have to deal with this kind of. And as an immigrant, and as somebody who's, for me, English is my third language, not second even, that hurt. That was not good for me. And I still am dealing with this, on multiple levels, and I still don't know how exactly actually to deal with it. The second one is the crisis reveals. It's obvious, it's pedestrian. I apologize again for being, very simple in this, but for me it was shocking. people who I thought were truly genuine, good-hearted, and always were sort of Minnesota nice, and I thought I can rely on them. I couldn't, and people who were sort of in the background stood out as truly powerful in their own way, and I can start with how many CEOs has called me to jump over, just this entitlement stuff, first on the testing, then on the vaccinations. And they just thought this is like, that's a normal business, there was no axis of integrity that I could detect. And these are people I've known for a while, these are people, anyway, this was very disappointing. People who would not share in the collective pain. That's the other thing that I learned, that I learned it from my operating group. In bad things happen in the hospitals, not because people are bad, but because it's just complicated. And sometimes it's a life-changing, especially for a surgeon, it's a life-changing if you make a mistake, and it's your mistake, period. And my policy always was this: everybody shares. It doesn't matter what happened, doesn't matter who. It's a sort of this culture of blamelessness almost. But at the same token, I expected everyone to be a part of that shared pain. And yet, in some of the teams, I had to semi-quietly, disband some, reorganize others, because again, it was disturbing to me. And I don't lose sleep over many things. And this one I did. How troubling this was for me, that there are people like that.
If I could just say, thank you, Dr. Tolar. I think that was incredibly insightful, and I would agree with you. It's one of the difficult learnings has been just the way that something as basic and human as an infectious disease that is killing people all over the world and in our state, and that we don't rally around that, and we divided along these political and ideological lines. And I never expected that battling an infectious disease, a global pandemic, would become a political divisive issue. And that has been unfathomable to me. So I'm kind of glad you opened up that, that part of this, the insights that have not been pleasant ones.
Yeah. I really appreciate how both of you in your spheres of influence have set a tone and set expectations and addressed when people in your teams aren't rising to the occasion, as Dr. Tolar just pointed out. I'm going to pause right now and just see, interns, you have an opportunity to talk to Commissioner Malcolm, to ask a question to Dr. Tolar. Is there anyone that would like to offer a reflection or react to anything you've heard so far?
I just have to say, I think, Carolyn, you're aware of this. I have a legislative briefing I have to do at 6:30, so I just have a few more minutes left. And sorry.
I announced it at the beginning.
We are ending by 6:29, if not sooner. Yes. Anyone? Okay, go ahead, Tara.
Oh, thanks. I was just thinking that, as you're talking about collective humanity, I kept thinking about empathy and the shared human experience. And in our intern project, we've learned a lot about how empathy kind of ebbs and flows through time for individuals in their careers. And I'm wondering if you can speak to how you're maintaining your empathy, developing that in your teams.
Thank you, Tara.
Commissioner?
It's a great point, Tara, and I do think that's just essential to the public health response to this pandemic, to appreciate and be empathetic with all the forms of loss this has brought, including being empathetic with the business owners who've been furious with me personally and with us for some of the restrictions that we put in place, I have to, understand and respect that what a loss that is for them. So I think empathy goes, in all directions. But I think that is you're right to say, I think you can be intentional about it. You can work to develop it. But I also think it's a pretty hardwired trait that people either have or they don't. And I'd say the other thing you need is not just empathy, but authenticity. Because if you're trying to be empathetic and it isn't real, that's just a non-starter. So I think, finding ways of serving and work to do in which it does engage your desire to be empathetic, and you can be, very integrity filled and authentic about it that is a source of joy for me, to be able to be and project empathy. That's just essential to satisfaction in the work. So I think it's a great question.
Very well said. I learned mostly from, again, my patients, how to live my life. And empathy is a huge part of this, because you would be surprised how many, even oncologists, are just when there's nothing to do, they are just uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable going to the room. They're uncomfortable talking to the family. And I have always taken the opposite approach. Again, I learned it from my patients. Go there. You don't have to be talking very much. You actually shouldn't be talking much, but you should be present. And that empathy of being present, that is what the commissioner describes, I think, in being genuine. It has to be, and it is, which is sort of the self-help industrial complex, in the book stands at the airports, says that. It hurts, it's uncomfortable. It really is uncomfortable. But the benefits for you and for the people involved is enormous. So the empathy is a key ingredient, and I think it's one of these things that actually scale. This is important, because not very many things in healthcare actually scale. Scale in business of healthcare makes both the patient and the clinician more miserable, because patients want to be treated as one individual. Every woman, every man I've ever treated, it was ill in a different way, personal way. And they want to be seen as that, not as a kidney failure. They really want to be seen as, okay. And it scales, because once people realize that you are seeing somebody with COVID, with disease, not the disease, they get it. It snaps like this, and it's magic. I assure you, it's worth it.
In the 2 minutes that we have left, thank you. Attorney General Ellison said, somebody can't do everything, but everyone can do something. And the question in the chat box is, what can we do? We're students right now, we're interns right now. Do either of you have just an immediate reaction to that question beyond what I know is already good work that these interns are doing?
Commissioner, I'm sure you have.
Well, yeah. One thing you can do is be a source of information and credibility to your peers, your friends, your families. We really, especially now at this stage in the vaccine effort, we have to meet people where they are. We have to help make sure that they have the accurate information to make the best decision they can, help them understand it's not just about them, that it's about the broader community. So anything you can do to just be sort of personal ambassadors for the importance of, continuing to take this seriously, and to follow public health precautions even after the rules are gone, help people, know how to make smarter choices, and please get vaccinated.
Yes, you're doing your job, Commissioner. That's good. Yes, I affirm that. Get vaccinated. There's no good reason not to. But I want to reflect on briefly on what AVP Porta just said before that, which is the action you're going to take. The size doesn't matter. You see, take care of somebody. I'm sure you know somebody who has struggled. I'm sure you know of somebody who's anxious or cannot, buy groceries. I don't know what it is, or working mother with 2 kids at home that cannot go to school yet, but you can help in that particular way. It doesn't have to be, and sometimes it cannot be, very visible, very sort of a public and so forth, but it matters.
Yep. On behalf of the interns, thank you both. We are available, we're at your service, and thank you for this time tonight.
Thank you for listening. Let us know what you gained from this conversation by writing a quick review. Please share this podcast with others, subscribe for future conversations, and check out our other episodes. Explore health sciences at the University of Minnesota at health.umn.edu.